A hush settles over the moment before everything breaks, the kind of hush that feels too heavy for daylight, too sharp for the easy rhythm of an ordinary morning. Breath catches in the air as three stories drift together, bound by the same strange gap in time that no one can explain. People stand close enough to feel each other's warmth, close enough to hear footsteps and simple words, yet somehow far enough for something to slip through and take what matters most. There's a tremor in the space between seconds, as if the world shivers and forgets to hold on. And just when calm should return, it doesn't. Instead, a single thought rises like a warning in the dark. If someone can vanish right in front of watching eyes, what else can disappear before we even know it's gone? The world feels tilted after the moment breaks, as if everyone nearby senses something has slipped loose but cannot name it. Silence clings to the edges of memory, refusing to settle. People try to recount what they saw, yet their words falter, sliding into gaps where details should be. The heavy quiet that follows carries an unsettling truth. Nothing about these vanishings feels fast or wild, yet each one happens too quickly for the mind to catch. A shiver moves through those left behind, not from fear, but from the strange, hollow certainty that the moment didn't behave like time should. And deep beneath the confusion lies a single echoing question that refuses to fade. Why didn't anyone hear a sound? The moment stretches thin as people struggle to stitch together what they think they witnessed. Some recall a shift in the air, others insist they saw nothing at all, and a few swear something felt wrong long before it happened. Their memories wobble, unreliable, shaped more by fear than clarity. The truth hides somewhere in the overlapping confusion, yet no one can grasp it. Every second that passes feels heavier, building pressure behind a mystery no one is ready to face. And while they try to steady themselves, a quiet dread blooms, the sense that whatever happened was not an accident, but a pattern waiting to repeat. Time becomes untrustworthy, as witnesses replay the moment again and again in their minds, each recollection shifting slightly, refusing to settle into something firm. Every detail feels important, yet everything slips like sand through shaking fingers. People look at one another for reassurance, hoping someone saw more than they did, someone who can put shape to the impossible. But no matter how strongly they try to anchor themselves to logic, the truth refuses to cooperate. Something moved in those missing seconds, something quiet, deliberate, and unseen. And the question grows heavier. If this can happen once, why wouldn't it happen again? Fear spreads slowly, like a chill crawling across the ground. People cling to logic, forcing themselves to speak calmly even as their breathing turns uneven. They look for clues, an object out of place, a sound they missed, anything to anchor the moment back to reality. But nothing fits. Every normal explanation crumbles under the weight of the silence left behind. It becomes clear that the world didn't simply lose someone. The moment itself tore open and closed again before anyone understood what they were seeing. And as the truth sinks in, one awful thought cuts deeper than all the others. What if the next disappearance has already begun? Morning settles in with a strange weight, as though the air still carries the echo of everything that went wrong. People speak in low tones, choosing their words carefully, afraid any detail might vanish the way the missing did. Nothing fits together cleanly. A faint rattle in one memory becomes a sharp snap in another. A shift in shadow becomes a gust of wind, then becomes nothing at all. The timelines feel slippery, bending away from certainty. Every witness tries to convince themselves they're not losing their minds, yet the truth keeps sliding just out of reach. Something touched those moments, leaving behind a quiet bruise in the air. And as the first reports are written down, it becomes clear. The stories don't disagree. They overlap. Questions ripple through the crowd like a slow-moving wave, each one reopening the wound of confusion. People cling to small fragments, sounds, glances, slight movements, hoping one piece might anchor the truth. But everything feels loose, disconnected, drifting through memory with no solid shape. Each witness insists they saw something real, yet their descriptions bend and twist in ways none of them can explain. A feeling grows heavy in the air, a sense that these vanishings weren't random sparks of chaos but pieces of the same broken pattern. And somewhere beneath the surface, fear whispers that whatever happened hasn't finished its work. Evidence begins to pile up, yet none of it connects. Footprints lead nowhere, shadows shift without reason, and timelines refuse to match the natural pace of the world. The people searching feel caught between logic and something far colder. It's not the fear of danger that unsettles them, it's the fear that the rules they trusted have cracked open. With every retelling, the same impossible moment returns. A breath, a flicker, a silence, and then nothing. Something waits inside those seconds, hiding behind the edges of time. The pattern sharpens, and with it comes an unspoken truth none of them want to face. Detectives try to rebuild the timelines, stitching together the seconds before the disappearances, but each attempt cracks under its own weight. The truth behaves like something alive, slipping away the moment they draw too close. Every witness speaks of a shift, an odd pressure, a strange stillness, a flicker in the air. These tiny, repeating details gather like dust on a shelf. Quiet, but undeniable. The possibility no one wants to admit grows larger with each overlapping clue. These events are linked, not by chance, not by location, but by something hidden inside the smallest slice of time. The kind of pattern that doesn't stop on its own. The weight of the pattern settles across the room like a thick fog. No one wants to be the first to say it aloud, yet everyone feels the truth pressing in. These vanishings didn't follow chaos. They followed a rhythm, a slow, deliberate beat hidden beneath ordinary life. The seconds before each disappearance twist into a shape no one understands, leaving behind a silence that feels almost intelligent. People exchange uneasy glances, each afraid they might be witnessing the start of something larger. And as the day ends, the bitter realization becomes impossible to ignore. Whatever took these people didn't leave the world. It's still moving somewhere close. Patterns form slowly, often hiding beneath familiar moments until someone finally notices the shape they create. The people trying to make sense of the disappearances feel the shift before they understand it. Something in the rhythm of each story repeats with quiet insistence. A breath held, a sudden stillness, a strange tension in the air as though the world prepares for something it cannot stop. Memories sharpen and fade in cycles, offering pieces of truth that almost fit. What once felt like isolated confusion now feels like a single thread weaving through all three vanishings, tugging tighter with every realization. And as the weight of that truth settles in, one fear rises above the others. The pattern isn't finished. People struggle with the idea that different lives can bend toward the same impossible moment. Yet, the connections grow clearer with each new detail. Tiny echoes repeating across locations, witnesses, and the final seconds before each disappearance. Fear shifts into determination as those left behind realize they're not searching for chance but for consistency. Something passed through those moments, leaving behind faint scars in their memory. As the puzzle tightens, hope and dread move side by side, neither stronger than the other. And slowly, the question becomes not who vanished, but what touched the air around them. As the pieces gather, the room feels smaller, pressed in by the weight of what everyone finally sees forming between their stories. No one wants to accept it, yet no one can deny the pull of the repeating clues. The sudden chill, the warm flicker, the strange hesitation in the world. It's as if the vanishings are shadows of each other, stretched across different places but moving with the same strange pulse. The truth becomes something they can almost touch but not quite name. Still, the shape of the mystery grows sharper, and with it comes the uneasy sense that the next answer won't bring comfort. Why? The deeper they dig, the more clearly the stories lean toward each other, their edges touching like pieces of a single broken hour. People who never met now share the same terrifying confusion. Every vanished second looks the same, repeating like a quiet signal, none of them recognized until too late. Doubt loses its strength as evidence piles into the same narrow corner, pushing them toward a truth they never thought to consider. Underneath the fear lies a sharper feeling, a sense that they're standing on the edge of understanding something no one should ever witness. Silence settles before the final connections click into place. The room holds its breath as everyone recognizes the truth they've been circling. The moments of disappearance weren't random. They were synchronized. Something moved through 3 different places at 3 different times, yet followed the same rhythm. The same pause in the world. The same sharp blink of reality. A cold understanding spreads through the room, leaving no space for denial. Whatever pulled those people away didn't choose them at random. It chose its moments. And the worst part isn't that they finally see the pattern. It's that they don't know when it will return. Truth rarely arrives in clean lines. It comes in fragments, jagged and uneven, forcing everyone to face the gaps left behind. As investigators dig deeper, the minutes around each disappearance take on new meaning. The missing seconds, those tiny silent stretches of time, begin to feel like traps hidden inside normal life. People replay the recorded evidence until the images blur, hoping to catch a hint of motion or a flicker that might explain everything. But all they find is the same haunting pause. The world seems to hold its breath, as though waiting for someone to acknowledge the break in its rhythm. And finally, someone does. Once the first crack in the timeline opens, the others fall in place. Witnesses replay their memories with new eyes, their recollections shifting into patterns they never thought to question before. Each disappearance shares the same stutter in the world. A breath too long, a sound fading too quickly, a stillness settling deeper than it should. These repeated traces feel like footsteps of something passing between moments, leaving the smallest dents in reality behind it. And as the pattern strengthens, hope becomes harder to hold. Whatever moved through those seconds didn't hide by accident. It left its silence behind. Patterns grow clearer under repeated light. The tiny stitches between the 3 cases tighten until they form a shape no one can ignore. Stillness spreads through every memory at the same exact point, right before each person vanished. People struggle between denying the impossible and accepting the truth pressing against them. And beneath the growing clarity lies a colder revelation. Whatever caused the vanishings didn't break the world. It slipped through a weak spot already there. A flaw hiding inside ordinary seconds, waiting to be used. Rumors ripple through the investigation rooms, whispers of something more than coincidence. People lean closer to their notes, searching for comfort in logic. But logic keeps slipping away. Every witness describes the same sensation. A faint pressure, a soft hum, a sudden cold that shouldn't exist. These details fold together into something too precise to ignore, and though no one wants to admit it, the truth begins to breathe on its own. The disappearances weren't sudden. They were timed, chosen, woven through a silent fracture, only now coming into view. The final connection comes quietly, almost shyly, slipping into view like a truth the world hesitates to speak. All 3 disappearances share not just a gap, but a shift, an uneven tremble in the same tiny slice of time. The realization steadies the room with a cold certainty. Something touched each moment on purpose. A presence, a force, or an intelligence moved through those seconds and took what it wanted. And the worst truth settles in. This isn't the end of the pattern. It's the beginning of understanding it. Understanding breaks across the room like cold water, sharp and unwelcome. The clues no longer feel scattered. They slide together into something stranger than coincidence. People try to ground themselves in facts, yet every fact bends toward the impossible. The missing seconds weren't empty. They were hiding something that moved silently through them. The realization settles with a quiet dread, as though the world has been keeping a secret too large for human eyes. The more they study the evidence, the more they feel the weight of something watching from behind those gaps, something that returned again and again, waiting for its moment to strike. And the next moment feels dangerously close. Once the blind spot becomes clear, the pattern sharpens. Each disappearance happened not in open space, but in a place where sight faltered. Behind a truck, beneath a shadow, beside a ridge. These weren't accidents, they were opportunities. A cold stillness settles on the group as they consider the truth. Something used the blind spots like doorways, slipping through the cracks where the world's attention failed. The realization pushes fear deeper, not because of what was taken, but because of how easily it was done. The silence before each disappearance now feels like a warning they never heard. The search for meaning becomes a search for patterns in the silence, a hunt for what moved unseen through the world. People replay the final moments of each vanishing until they can recite them without thinking. The wind that shouldn't have blown. The cold that didn't match the weather. The strange stillness that filled the air seconds before everything fell apart. Together, these pieces form a shape too deliberate to ignore. The vanishings weren't moments of chaos. They were carefully chosen instants when the world paused just long enough for something to slip in. The truth creeps closer, steady and unavoidable. Details once dismissed as coincidence now feel like instructions left behind. Every blind spot matches the missing seconds. Every shift in the air aligns with the silence witnesses still can't explain. The shape of the truth forms, like a shadow stretching across all three cases, revealing just enough to terrify, but not enough to understand. People sit quietly, each lost in the same thought. If something moved through these moments, it chose them with purpose. The disappearances weren't random, they were rehearsed, and whatever practiced them might be waiting to repeat the pattern again. The truth settles with a heavy finality. The disappearances followed the same hidden doorway, slipping through the same weakness in the world. No one knows whether it was a force, a presence, or something far stranger, but each person feels the same cold certainty. Whatever made the world pause didn't act at random. It acted with intention. And as eyes meet across the room, an unspoken fear binds them together. If these moments were chosen, then more moments can be chosen. More seconds can break. More people can vanish. And the question they've been avoiding rises like a chill up their spine. What if the next gap has already begun? Fear becomes something quieter now. Steady thrum beneath every thought, guiding everyone toward the same chilling realization. The disappearances aren't just moments stolen. They're moments shaped by something that understands how to move between seconds. People sit with this truth in tense silence, feeling the strange weight of the world shifting around them. Every clue they revisit, every detail they once ignored, now glows with unsettling meaning. The missing seconds begin to feel alive, like thin cracks spreading through time. And as they search for answers, a darker understanding rises. Whatever slipped through those moments may still be drifting somewhere close, waiting for the next breath to falter. The weight of repetition becomes impossible to ignore. Each story echoes the others with eerie precision, sounds that vanish too quickly, breaths that falter, shadows that slip into unnatural shapes. People begin to feel watched, not by someone, but by the pattern itself, as though the world is holding back a truth too large to reveal in a single moment. Determination hardens their fear, pushing them deeper into the evidence. The silence around the disappearances begins to feel like a message waiting to be understood. And as they push closer, a new question emerges. If something moved through those seconds, what else did it leave behind? The evidence begins to feel less like data and more like warnings carved into the world. Every freeze frame, every temperature drop, every sudden shift in air pressure becomes another whisper, pointing toward the same invisible presence. It's no longer possible to dismiss the similarities as coincidence. Instead, the pattern feels like footsteps leading deeper into something they were never meant to notice. The more they examine the moments before the disappearances, the clearer it becomes that something moved with purpose, choosing seconds choosing shadows, choosing silence, and the next step in understanding feels dangerously close. As they compare the final moments again, a deeper shape forms, one not defined by sight, but by absence. Something pressed into each disappearance, bending the world just enough to be felt. The missing seconds pulse like a heartbeat now, drawing everyone toward the truth hiding between them. People speak quieter, as though afraid of disturbing the fragile understanding forming between their thoughts. The world begins to feel thinner, stretched too tightly across whatever moved through it. And finally, they admit what none of them wanted to say. The disappearances were not only deliberate, they were coordinated. Silence falls as the truth reveals itself, piece by piece, until no doubt remains. Something passed through those moments with intention. It didn't simply take 3 people. It selected its instance with precision. The gaps in time weren't empty. They were doorways briefly opened, then sealed before anyone could understand what they saw. A cold shiver runs through the room as everyone realizes how easily those seconds could come again. If the pattern is real, then the presence might still be moving through the world, waiting for the next moment when attention slips. And the terrifying part isn't that they now see the pattern, but that the pattern might see them too. The final hours settle over everyone with a weight that feels different. Less frantic, more certain, as though the truth they've uncovered has been waiting for them to arrive. The air feels charged, stretched thin by the knowledge that something moved through their world with purpose. Every clue they've gathered points to a presence that understands how to bend seconds, how to slip behind moments when no one is looking. People stand in uneasy silence, realizing they've been circling the same truth since the beginning. The world didn't glitch. Time didn't hesitate. Something acted, and now the question haunting them all sharpens into a single thought. What else has it touched? The room grows still, as the truth begins to feel alive, shifting through their thoughts like a cold draft. Every missing person left behind a final instant that doesn't match the world that came before or after it. It's as if the disappearances carved tiny wounds into time itself, wounds that never healed. People speak carefully, afraid of giving shape to something they don't fully understand. Yet, beneath the fear, a deeper realization spreads. The vanishings were not only linked, they were leading to something, a direction, a pattern, a final message hidden in the seconds before silence. Piece by piece, the final theory emerges, shaped by fear and clarity in equal measure. The disappearances weren't random events or isolated moments. They were intersections, points where something touched all 3 victims through the same unseen doorway. People glance at each other, realizing that the presence they've been chasing didn't follow them. It moved ahead of them, choosing perfect moments to slip into. A quiet dread fills the room as they recognize the pattern's deeper meaning. These weren't accidents. They were trials, tests, and no one knows whether the force behind them has finished choosing. The deeper truth settles slowly, creeping into the corners of the room. The disappearances were connected not just by timing or shadows, but by intention. Something moved through the world with precision, following a path visible only in hindsight. People feel their fear turn sharper as they understand the terrifying simplicity. Whatever caused the vanishings wasn't chasing the victims. It was studying them, testing the quiet edges of time. And the moment this realization lands, a chilling thought rises. Maybe the 3 vanishings were only the first step in something larger. Silence grips the room as everyone faces the final realization. The disappearances weren't isolated tragedies, but messages written in time itself. The pattern doesn't end with understanding. It ends with a question too heavy to answer. If something can reach into a moment and take someone without a trace, then no second is truly safe. The world feels thinner now, more fragile, as though the quiet between breaths might hold more than air. People stare at the evidence, knowing they've unlocked something they cannot close. And in that stillness, a final question settles like a shadow. No one can shake. What if the next person has already stepped into the wrong second?